Welcome to the Pitch Tips Zoomcast. I'm Fred Haney, your host, and I'm here because I've been involved with hundreds of startups, both as a venture capital investor, angel investor, and co-founder. And I've had about 60 exits through that whole process. And I've tried to pull all that together in a book called The Fundable Startup: How Disruptive Companies Attract Capital. And we also have been doing these Pitch Tips Zoomcasts as an opportunity for you to be a fly on the wall during a conversation between an entrepreneur who's raising capital and a venture capitalist, that would be me, who's asking questions and trying to make a decision. You know, is this something I would invest in or not? Our purpose here is not to make an investment. Our purpose is to help our guest improve his pitch deck and improve his chances of getting funded. Sometimes it's about wording, sometimes it's about strategy, sometimes it's about the best way to pitch things. But the whole idea here is how to make a better pitch and improve chances of getting funded. Our guest today is Armaan Saini. He's the CEO of Hindsight. And we'll learn from him what his company is about and a little bit about his background before we jump in. So Armaan, welcome to Pitch Tips Zoomcast. Good to have you here.
Hi, Fred. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Why don't you give us a quick little elevator speech about Hindsight. Tell us what that's about. And then give us a little personal background about yourself and how you got involved in this project and how you're thinking about it.
Sure. So basically, Hindsight is advancing consumer adoption of smart glasses through fashion-forward designs and unique functionality. And a little bit about myself. So I went to UCI, and while I was there, I was doing research in an artificial intelligence lab, focusing on computer vision. I then worked with some of the PhD students I was with to try to launch a fintech company, an AI fintech company. That ended up not going so well, and I met my co-founder, Casey, through our business fraternity, actually, at university, and he came to me with the original prototypes for the Hindsight glasses. And I thought it was an amazing product. I thought it was the future, and I got involved. I jumped on board right away, and it's been history ever since.
Great. So you're having fun. Okay, well, we'll jump in a little more detail. Just to give the listeners a little background on how venture capitalists think about these things, it's very important to understand the mindset of a venture capitalist. I learned early on as a venture capitalist, like my first few weeks, that it was not a good idea to get all excited about every project I see. When you're in the venture capital business, you see dozens and dozens and hundreds of really good ideas, interesting ideas, or intriguing ideas. And you could spend weeks researching and digging in and learning a lot. And that was my temptation at the beginning. And then I finally figured out, well, wait a minute. I've got 50 business plans on my desk. I've got dozens of people trying to get on my calendar. I'm sitting on a bunch of boards of directors. I have a real time management problem. So if what you learn is, if you're going to say no to a project, then say no fast. So that's kind of your whole time management challenge as a venture capitalist is saying no fast. So you don't spend a whole lot of time on deals that you're not going to do. I mean, what I used to say to my 3i Ventures crowd was, look, you want to spend all your time on the deals you're going to do and none of your time on the deals you're not going to do. So again, if you're going to say no, you say no fast. Well, how do you do that? Well, you start out by trying to identify the showstopper deals. You know, if this company is not going to work out, what would be the reasons? What would be the things that would get in the way? So you make that list, and then you go through that list one at a time, and you try and say, well, can I live with this risk? Can I find a way to manage around it? Can I eliminate it? Is there some other way to deal with it? And ultimately, you either get comfortable or find a way to manage things, or you say, well, there's just too much risk here. I can't really get my arms around it, so it's not a project I should do. So you get a little bit of that kind of mentality as we go here. So what we'll do is have Armaan give a quick version of his pitch deck, I'll just let him fly through that, and then I'll come back at the end with some questions and issues, and we'll have some discussion about that and see if we can help him improve his chances of getting funded. So Armaan, if you're ready to do a screen share, why don't you go ahead and go through your presentation?
Sure thing, Fred. Let me do that right now. All right. So, has there ever been a moment that you wish you could have captured, but by the time you pull your phone out to capture it, the moment's already passed? Well, you're not alone. And there's really no good consumer product for solving this until now. The Hindsight 2020s, a pair of fashion-forward smart glasses capable of capturing footage of events 20 seconds before you push the button and 20 seconds after, sending the footage straight to your smartphone where you can then integrate with all major social media apps. We currently have 1 utility patent granted on the functionality, 2 utility patents pending, 2 design patents pending, and a trademark pending. Our target customers are primarily people who want to capture bite-sized video content to share with their online audience. And the reasoning for this is that 82% of all consumer traffic will come from online videos by 2022, and bite-sized videos, social media is the overwhelmingly dominant form of social media consumed online today, with the introduction of TikTok, YouTube Short, Facebook Reels, Snapchat Stories, Instagram Stories. These glasses will be the ultimate content generation tool for all of these platforms. We have a $192 billion service addressable market composed of the eyewear, wearable, and action camera market. We have a $40 million service obtainable market based on our 5-year revenue projections. We're going to go to market at an $800 price point, and we'll eventually scale down to a couple of $100 a pair with time. We have about 6 different revenue streams, ranging from a SaaS model to NFT sales, as well as selling units online, as well as through retailers. We plan to go to market in 2022 via direct-to-consumer online and through our retailers. We currently have a $500,000 retail deal through our distribution partners at Bomb Vision, and we plan to scale up to the next couple of years. The competitive landscape is highly fragmented with no clear benchmark, which allows Hindsight to come in and be that benchmark. And the reasoning why is that we're selling a clearly defined lifestyle. We're the only pair of smart glasses that actually do something your smartphone doesn't do, and that's capturing missed moments. We integrate with all major social media platforms, and our design partners have designed eyewear for the likes of Louis Vuitton, Marc Jacobs, Rebecca Minkoff, and a variety of other luxury eyewear brands. The team is composed of Casey Spencer. He was the project manager at Tesla, as well as myself, Armaan Saini, 3 years of experience in computer vision research, experience founding a fintech startup, and 5 years in the entertainment and fashion industry, as well as an all-star engineering team ranging from people who actually worked on Google Glass themselves to the old CTO of Jawbone Electronics. We're looking for $1.5 million so we can finish development of our MVP, fulfill $540,000 in POs, and fundraise our Series A.
Okay, good job. There's a lot of good information there. One thing I wanted to ask is help me understand clearly how this works. You talk about capturing images sort of retroactively.
Sure.
There's a button I have to press, but I mean, in the case of the butterfly on the tiger's nose, how did I know that was going to happen? How did I know when to press the button?
Yeah, so I actually have a pair of our prototypes right here. And basically, how it goes is, say you see something that you wish you could have recorded. These are recording 20 seconds before all the time on a passive buffer. So the event happens, you push the button, it'll capture the last 20 seconds, record another 20 seconds, and then from there, it sends it straight to your smartphone.
Okay, that's a great answer, and that's very clear. You might want to bake that in somehow to
Mhm.
the presentation, because I wasn't understanding that. Let me ask you a curveball question. Uh,
Sure.
have 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 you ever heard of a project called My Life Bits?
My life bits.
Well, I know about
Oh.
this for a peculiar reason. Um, my PhD thesis advisor at Carnegie Mellon was a guy named Gordon Bell.
Mhm.
And Gordon is a genius computer hardware guy. He invented several of the computers for Digital Equipment Corporation. This would have been back in the 60s, like I'm not sure which, PC, P6, PDP-8, maybe something like that. He was involved as a co-founder with several different computer-related companies. And then later in his life, I'm not sure the exact timing, uh, he became a fellow at Microsoft working with Bill Gates.
Mhm.
And his project was to record everything that he ever saw or
Yeah.
heard or read, uh, and and you know, and store it in a way that he could go back and retrieve it and pull it up. So it's, uh, that's what the My Life Bits reference is. Like everything that I've ever experienced is going to be part of this recording. It would probably be a good idea to research that a little bit and see what he did. I mean, you're not trying to do
Yeah.
that. I understand that. But your project sort of made me think of that.
Yeah.
You know, I just think it'd be interesting background for you to have and be knowledgeable about. So you're recording 20 seconds ahead of time. That's a good answer to the question. That so I can um, capture things that happen within 20 seconds. So
Right.
basically,
And actually inside of the social media app, oh, excuse me, inside of the smartphone app, you can actually choose how long you want to record into the past. It's just it'll be able to last 8 hours in a single charge, 20 seconds before and 20 seconds after. So um, that's why we chose that amount.
uh, one of the things I think you have to be careful about, and you know, I'm cheating a little bit here because I did see your more complete slide deck.
Mhm.
Um, your presentation that you just did was pretty concrete and gave me a pretty clear understanding of what was going on.
Mhm.
But there are some words and phrases in uh, the bigger slide deck that kind of went over my head. I mean,
Mhm.
they were a little too generic for me.
Mhm.
Um, some of it made it sound um, like you were a time machine. You know, like I had this generic ability to go back and
Right.
recapture history. It didn't say 20 seconds. It made it sound like it could go put myself in the middle of the French Revolution.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what you
Now that would be cool.
want. So uh, be careful. It's something to be careful about.
Yeah.
You want to be very specific about the things you say, because people uh, have problem with sort of generic phrases. Here was another one that I pulled from your bigger slide deck.
Mhm.
Retroactive recording.
Yes.
I don't think anybody knows what that means. So
Yeah.
I think it means something to you guys probably because you live in that world, but that's a phrase that you have to be really careful about.
Sure.
So let me jump for a second to a different topic. We got into this just for a minute by email last night, and it's this white on black slide format.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I see a lot of decks in that format, and I know a lot of people like that, but there's a couple reasons to not do that.
Mm-hmm.
One is if you Google and say what's the easiest on the eye and what's the easiest for reading, the answer is black on white.
Uh-huh.
The other problem is if you when you put black on white, and if I print out a page of that, then I'm probably only printing 5 or 10% of the surface area, if that. But if it's white on black, I'm having to print 98% of the surface area, and it uses
Right.
a whole toner cartridge.
Yeah.
And that's a real problem.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, if you do say, well, I don't care about the toner, I'm going to go ahead and print it out black on white, then you can't make notes on it unless you got a white pencil. You know, because so I'm a person who likes to print slide decks out
Mm-hmm.
and write notes on them, reminders about things to talk about. And I can't do that with white on black. And it's something to be really careful about. A lot of people like to print these things out. You know, they carry them around, they make copies, they give it to their partners, they give it to other investors in their group.
Mm-hmm.
I would suggest that you stay with a simple black on white. And if you Google that, you'll find out very quickly that black on white is easier to read.
Yeah.
It's just easier on people's eyes. Enough about that. How would you describe the problem that you're solving here? You know, who's lying awake at 2 o'clock in the morning wishing they had this?
Yeah. Well, honestly, I could say almost everyone, because everyone's had a moment that that's happened, and then they wish they could have captured it. I mean, you know, the use cases are endless. You know, you get in an accident, something happens, you wish you could have captured it. You see someone slip on a banana peel, and you wish you could have captured it. You see a rare animal when you're hiking, you wish you could have captured it. um, it happens all the time. In fact, I see myself having hindsight moments, as I call them, like 3 to 4 times a week, where it's like, man, I need to get I had these classes. So primarily though, it would be younger people who want to share their stories on social media. They would be the most apt to use these classes.
See, that kind of brings me back to this thing I talked about earlier, the My Life Bits project
Mm-hmm.
that Gordon Bell did. You really ought to check that out and see kind of what technology. He had a camera hanging around his neck. I mean,
Yeah.
there's of him. I mean, this is probably 20-year-old information, but there's pictures of him going around spending his life doing that way. So it does kind of raise the question, well, why not just record everything?
Yeah, well, okay, so see here's the thing, and this is why we chose a fashion forward approach and why we chose the glasses form factor. Um, Eyewear is something that almost everyone wears, whether it's sunglasses or prescription. It's not some extra gadget they have to put on, and more importantly, in fact, most importantly, is nobody wants to walk around with a giant camera strapped to their chest. This is why people don't just walk around with GoPro strapped to their chest, because people are going to look at them like they're weird. They're going to be socially ostracized for doing that. So that's why we chose this form factor. That's why we're choosing the design route that we're choosing, and that's where the traditional barriers to consumer adoption are, in our opinion.
But I don't want to dig too deep on the technology, but aren't there technologies that would allow you to store just a massive amount of the video information, not necessarily in the glasses, but in my hip pocket or on a cell phone or something like that?
I mean, yeah, I get you do have your smartphone camera, and there are other wearable cameras that are out there, but again, it's something that's an extra gadget that you have to put on. it's not something that's seamlessly integrated into your lifestyle. And it again, to a lot of people, it's kind of dystopian in a way. So again, that's why we chose the glasses form factor. It might not be the most efficient at a technological point of view, but in terms of a consumer adoption point of view, it's the best choice.
Um, so let's talk about competition. You've got a slide there that shows a lot of people in a fragmented market. I think one thing investors are going to want to know is, well, why are we really different? How do we stand out? So one thing you might want to do is focus on what's closest to us. You know, are there a couple products that are sort of in the same ballpark or slightly similar? What's the closest thing that somebody might say, oh, well, we can do all that, and explain exactly why you're different. You know, is it the 20 seconds? Is it the weight? Is it speed? You know, so I don't know, is there something that's anywhere close to what you're doing?
Oh, absolutely. So if we go back to that slide, basically it's Snapchat and Orbi Prime are the two companies that are doing something similar. Orbi less similar because they're doing 360 cameras and it's more so, it's a little bit of a different market, but Snapchat, and I mean you could consider GoPro too, but Snapchat, they came out with the spectacles, which were camera glasses. And they did okay. They didn't do that well, and there's good reasons for that, which I can get into if you'd like.
So your real advantage is the 20-second delay, right? I think, right?
Couple of things. So if you were to look at the spectacles are tailored to only Snapchat. Yes, you can export them to other media platforms from Snapchat, but there's basically it messes up the formatting kind of, and it doesn't look as good on other platforms. And the other thing is it goes back to the design. So one of the biggest issues that Snapchat had was that its design was horrendous. It was tailored to teens, and it didn't generalize to normal people very well. And so they looked like toys when they came out. And so that was the largest issue that Snapchat had. It didn't function very well because they didn't take the time to engineer it properly. And yeah, it was just tailored to the Snapchat app.
So, but let's go back. Am I right when I say your real differentiator is that 20-second advanced recording, the ability to go back and capture that last 20 seconds? Is that what
Yeah,
makes it different?
that's the primary one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we have our patents on.
So if I'm serious about making an investment, I would really want to zero in on that and say, well, what's that worth?
Mm-hmm.
You know, how much are people willing to pay for that? How big a deal is that?
Mm-hmm.
Or is somebody lying awake at 2 o'clock in the morning wishing they had that? I know exactly what you're saying. I know the point, and there may be better ways to focus on that. I mean, I'm a fairly serious photographer, and not professional level, but I've published some images, and I take it seriously. My son has done some professional photography, so I've learned a lot from him. And one of the things you learn when you see something happening, or you know, a bird sitting on a tree or a lion with a butterfly, one of the things you learn is to grab an insurance shot. You just get your camera turned on and aimed, and you hit the shutter, bang, right now. You know, make sure you get something. And then you can worry about zooming in and framing and getting it all just right. So I've had that experience of a lot of times. And I don't know if that's helpful as a way to think about it or not, but that kind of makes it real for me. I mean, there are a lot of times in photography. I don't know that it would help if I had it in my glasses, but there are a lot of times I wish my camera could look back 20 seconds.
Right.
and take a shot. But of course, it wasn't pointed in the right direction.
Yeah, it's.
But I guess my point here is that I think you need to focus more on that issue. That's really where your value is.
Mhm.
And that's really what people are going to say, well, what's that worth? You know, how much is that worth to the customers? You can put all these other words around it, but when you get right down to it,
Mhm.
the question is, you know, how much are people willing to pay to be able to capture something that happened within the last 20 seconds?
Mhm. Well, you know, I would say the fear of missing out is quite a powerful tool.
Well, yeah, but you're also going to miss a lot of things that happened 40 seconds ago.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, what's magic about the 20 seconds? I'm telling you how I think an investor is going to ask that question and try and get to an answer to it. What is the value of having that 20 seconds advance? I mean, there clearly is some. The question is how much economic value is there?
Yeah, and you know, on my end of that, that's actually been incredibly difficult to quantify because it's a very qualitative, subjective kind of number. It's different for everyone, you know. But it's definitely something we have to think about going forward.
You identified a few areas there, and what 4 or 5 market segments, people that you thought would benefit especially. There may be some specific examples of people in the workplace who would really gain measurable economic value from having that capability.
Yeah.
That might be a way to think about it. So I'll leave that with you. I do think it's kind of the crux of the whole thing. You really need to figure out how do you measure that value? How do you quantify that?
Right.
How do you convince investors that there's X number of people who are willing to pay Y dollars to capture things that happened 20 seconds ago? I mean, that's really what it's about. A couple other questions that come up for me. Another phrase you used is clearly defined lifestyle.
Yeah.
I mean, that's awfully broad here. I mean, I'm not sure what that has to do with capturing things that happened 20 seconds ago.
Sure. So that oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, you just it's one of these things that's kind of overly broad, and somehow you need to bring it down to exactly what you're talking about, which is letting me capture something that happened 20 seconds before I knew it was going to happen.
Yeah. So what exactly we mean by that is we're like almost like we're a fashion brand. We with a specific lifestyle which empowers our consumers to it basically it helps our brand reside with consumers, if that makes sense. We're not like a Google or a Facebook making a pair of smart glasses. We're Hindsight. That's not this huge tech conglomerate. We're this lifestyle brand that resonates with its consumers. And that's the things that we put at the forefront of our whole design of the frame. So that was kind of where we're going with that. It's basically to drive consumer adoption.
Well, but it's a very generic thing, and
Sure.
what you're selling is very specific.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess one question would be, how many times a day do you think somebody needs that capability?
It depends on the person, really. Some people would be using it 10 times a day. Some people would use it once. Maybe some people would use it once a week.
But you need to think that through, sort of
Yeah.
figure out what your market is and who you want to be selling to. It leads me to another question. Maybe this will be the last one. Um, your plan is to sell through the eyewear retailers.
Yes, and
Uh,
online.
and I guess I'm wondering if that's the right place to take this. I mean, that is the Apple Watch sold through jewelry stores?
Well, no, the Apple Watch is sold through the Apple Store, but we're
Yeah,
not exactly in a position.
but that's kind of the comparison I'm trying to make. I mean, I
Yeah,
would have thought that the Apple Store or an app or some place where um, uh, tech savvy people go to buy things,
right.
which is not necessarily lens crafters down the street.
Yeah,
I just wondered if that's the right retail focus.
I see. Um, so I'll give you our reasoning for it. The reason why we chose eyewear retailers is because our whole philosophy is that these glasses are a fashion accessory first and a gadget second. These glasses are supposed to look so good that you will wear them and forget that they actually have the technology until you need to use them. So we want them to look as much as a normal pair of glasses as possible and to be distributed as a normal pair of glasses. So they will hit the consumers that traditional tech companies in the past haven't been able to acquire.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I would just give that some thought. I'm
Absolutely.
not sure that that's hit your target audience exactly where you want to hit it. The other comment I'll make, and I just kind of leave you with it, is that your revenue forecast is not very aggressive. I mean, you're talking about 12 million bucks, I think, in revenue in the 5th year.
Mhm.
That may not get enough investors excited. I mean, that's not a very big business. The what you have to think through is how to persuade investors that if they invest now, they're going to make a reasonable return on their investment in 5 years. And a business that's doing, most investors want to see businesses that are doing 50 to $100 million after year 5. At least that would be true of the VCs, and in some cases even more than that. The angel investors might be okay with businesses that are more in the 20, 30, 40 million revenue range in the 5th year. But 12 is kind of low. I mean, you've probably had that conversation with some investors already. But I guess what I would encourage you to do is do a discounted cash flow valuation analysis of your company and sort of pencil out how are you going to persuade investors that at the valuation of your deal, they put their money in, 5 years from now, 5 to 7 years, they're going to be able to get 10 times their money back. Because that's the real question that they're aimed at.
Yeah.
And my intuition tells me that with 12 million in revenue, that's going to be a hard sell.
Oh, yeah. Actually, thank you for sharing that. I didn't even think about that.
Well, if you valued the company, just numbers off the top of my head, if you valued the company in 5 years, you say 2.5 times sales, that would be like $30 million company. So all the money going in, so the valuation of the company after all the money goes in, not just this money, but whatever other money you're going to need, would have to be about $3 million.
Mm-hmm.
So if you raise a couple $1 million, your pre-money valuation would have to be like 1 million,
Mm-hmm.
which you probably wouldn't like very much. I mean, that's pretty low.
Yeah.
So you need to think that through.
Okay.
So you can say to an investor, well, if we value the company this way, here's what it's going to be worth 5 years from now, and here's how you're going to make 10 times your money. I don't think that computes very well right now. So
Yeah.
you may want to relook. And also, I mean, it's got to be a huge market for this. I mean, it's a lot of people. I don't know. I mean, how many Apple Watches are there? I mean,
Yeah.
you know, if it's really as exciting a proposition as you're claiming, then it ought to be a really big marketplace, I would think.
Yeah.
So I hope there's some food for thought there. Was there any specific issue that you'd like to ask me about, something you're wrestling with?
Well, first off, thanks for sharing that about the financials. I guess I was being a little bit too conservative there. Not at this moment, because I think you touched all the major stuff.
So just recap a little bit. I would use a different format for your slide deck. I would go to the black on white. And you want to be really careful to use language that's specific. Well, when you get right down to it, the primary thing that you're selling here is that ability to reach back 20 seconds and capture something that the glasses saw. And I think you want to be real clear about that. You know, I mean, you want to don't. Some of the language in the pitch deck is very broad. You know, and makes it sound like, well, like I said, it makes you sound like a time machine.
Yeah.
But it's really very specific, and you just want to stay focused on that. Don't try to make it sound bigger than it is. I would also encourage you to go check out the Gordon Bell project, My Life Bits. If you Google My Life Bits, and his name is Gordon Bell, it's probably old news at this point. I think he might have been doing that 15 or 20 years ago, and I don't know what's happened with it. But it's just, it's not competitive with what you're doing necessarily, but it's got some of the same motivation behind it. And it would just be interesting for you to learn about, if nothing else. And then I think you really want to spend a lot of time thinking about the value of that 20 seconds that you're able to reach back. You know, what is that really worth? Maybe there are some people on the planet who would die for that. I mean, you know, somebody working in a factory or something. There may be workplace situations where that's extremely valuable. It's a little bit like what the law enforcement people do with their cameras. I mean, there's some of that same idea, sort of capturing what really happened. I don't know that there's an intersection there, but you know, I think you need to think through very carefully. You know, for whom does that have value, and how much value? How much is it worth? How often are they going to use it? How's it going to change their life? Those are important kind of questions. And then I would look back at your revenue forecast. I think you really need to put together the story for investors that says, here's how you're going to make a return on your investment.
Right.
Based on the valuation, the amount of money coming in, the amount of money we're going to have to raise in the future, and the dilution that's going to create. Here's how 5 to 7 years from now you're going to make 10 times your money. And I'm not sure it pencils out with the numbers as they are presently.
Yeah.
Hope that helps a little.
No, it helps immensely, and I really appreciate it. And yeah, actually, that's what I was going to say before. Is the revenue forecast and quantifying that bit. Those are like my 2 bits of homework I need to do.
Yeah. So Armaan, thank you for being our guest on Pitch Tip Zoomcast. It's been good to be with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you too, Fred. I appreciate you having me on as well.
Good luck with your project. It's an interesting and fun project. I hope it goes great. Listeners, be sure and tune in next time. If you haven't already subscribed to the Fundable Startup YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button and do that, and be sure and check back with us next time. There's a lot of new content coming on the YouTube channel all the time. In the form of these pitch tips recordings. Also, the Monday Club presentations are recorded and presented, and there's other content showing up there, all aimed at helping you make your startup company fundable. Till next time, raise a lot of money, and thank you for being with us.